Once there was a farmer, a wealthy farmer who had a large piece of land and had 2 sons, and decreed that after his death, that piece of land would be divided equally between the 2 of them. That was what he wanted, and that was what was supposed to happen. But these 2 brothers were not alike. The younger was trusting and good, and the older was manipulative and not so good. He said to the younger brother after the funeral, "I think it would be so much better if the land stayed in one piece. Don't you?" Well, what do you suggest?" said his younger, trusting brother. "Well, we could, for example, have a competition, a fair competition, and whoever wins the competition keeps the land. What do you say?" The younger brother said, "What kind of competition do you suggest?" "Well, we've both grown up on a farm. Why don't we have a ploughing competition? Whoever ploughs the greatest piece of a field in one day, say from sunrise to sunset, wins the competition." And the younger, trusting brother agreed to this competition. And then the older brother said, "We could make it a little more interesting, a bit more fun. How about if we agree that neither of us will eat or drink during that day?" "All right then," said the youngest brother. So, on the day of the competition, the ploughs were set ready, but the younger brother, trusting his older brother, did not eat or drink anything when he woke up in the morning, just before sunrise. The older brother, meanwhile, had his wife make him a huge breakfast. He ate like a king the last hour before the sunrise. The competition began, and at first, the younger brother being a bit stronger, he was in the lead. But as the sun grew up and it grew hotter, well, the older brother started to plough on because he had the strength of a good meal in him. And at the end of the day, he had indeed ploughed more than the younger brother. And so it was decided that he had fairly won the competition and he would now own all the land. And the younger brother packed up his few things and left. And he walked all day until he came to the outskirts of a village and thought he could maybe chop wood and sell it in the village. So he went to the forest with his axe, intending to cut wood to have enough money to buy food. And he was just about to cut down a young tree when suddenly a bird flew out in a panic and was fluttering around in front of him saying, please, don't cut this tree. Don't cut this tree. This is where my nest is. This is where my children are. Please go somewhere else." He said, of course. He left that tree alone, found another one and began to cut it. And when the tree came down, the bird came back and she said, "I would like to give you a reward for listening to me, for not harming my nest or my children. If you come back to this place tomorrow, 1 hour before the dawn, and bring with you a small bag, I will take you to the mountain of the sun and it will change your life." So the man finished cutting enough wood to take into the village, sold it, had food for the night, and then an hour before the dawn the next day, he was back in that spot. he had a small bag in his pocket. The bird appeared. She said, follow me, and led him up a path that he hadn't seen the day before. It went higher and higher and higher until it came out on a flat plain right at the top of the mountain. She said, this is the mountain of the sun. Well, it was just beginning to get light, and the young man could see in the dim light that the ground was covered with jewels of every kind, huge jewels. The bird said, fill your bag, but you must leave before the sun rises. Do you understand? I understand, said the young man. And he bent down and he filled his bag with plenty of these beautiful jewels and put them in his pocket and turned and went back down the path before the sun came up over the horizon. He went back to the village. Now he had great wealth, and he used the wealth to buy his own land, to build a house, and in time he married and he began to build up his own farm. And he was happy and he was well loved by all his neighbors because he was generous. Whenever anybody needed anything, he would do anything he could to help. Now, time went by and time went by, and rumors about how well his younger brother was doing came back to the older brother, and he thought, how on earth did he do well? He left here with nothing. And the rumors continued to arrive about how wealthy he was and how many friends he had and how happy he was and his wife and his children. And the older brother began to stew with irritation and anger and curiosity. So he decided one day to walk to that village on the pretense of paying his brother a visit. Now, he had never been to see him because he really didn't care about anybody but himself. The younger brother, when he saw his older brother coming towards the house, said, oh, it's so good to see your face. Come in. He fed him. He gave him a comfortable place to stay. He did everything. And finally, the older brother said, you have a nice place here. You have a lovely wife. You have great land. You have a good farm. How did you manage to build all this up? When I last saw you, had nothing. And the young brother, being trusting, told his brother everything. How he had gone to a particular place in the forest to cut the tree. He'd met the bird. She'd taken him to the mountain of the sun. He'd filled a small bag with jewels, and from that he had built up what he had. How amazing, said the older brother, and then asked exactly where in the forest that bird lived. The next day, he left and went home and told his wife to start making the biggest bag possible. And he went off with his axe and he found that exact place and he lifted his axe, saying in a loud voice, oh, I think I'll just cut down this tree. And sure enough, the little bird arrived and fluttered around in front of his face, saying, oh, please, please don't cut this tree. This is where my home is. This is where I have my children. Please, please, choose another tree. Oh, of course I will choose another tree, he said. And went off, cut down another tree, didn't bother with cutting it up for firewood, but went home. Now, the bird had told him, of course, come back here 1 hour before the dawn and bring a small bag. When he got home, his wife had made a huge bag of 2 sheets sewn together. So together they folded it and rolled it up, and he had it under his arm. An hour before the sunrise the next day, he was back in that spot. The little bird arrived and she said, "Follow me. I'll take you to the mountain of the sun." Up the little winding path they went to the flat place in the dim light. Just before the sun came up, he could see there were jewels galore on the ground. And before the little bird had even explained, he was down on his knees. He was taking great armfuls of jewels. He was sweeping up as many as he could with his arms into that bag. And she said, "Only take what you need. Please only take what you need. And you must leave before the sun comes up." "Yes, yes, yes," said the man. "You must leave before the sun comes up. Do you understand?" "Yes, yes, I understand. But he did not listen to the bird, and she disappeared. And he carried on, greedily helping himself to jewel after jewel after jewel. The sky grew brighter and brighter. The bird came back and she said, "Hurry, hurry, you must leave now, leave now." And then she disappeared again. But he did not leave. And the first rays of the sun that came up over the mountains hit the mountain of the sun, and every jewel there burst into flame. And so did the man, and so did the bag he had. Everything burnt. And as for the younger son, he continued to live a happy and a generous and a peaceful life.